too many thieves. The whole entire Walmart.
Targets in New York City are now putting an end to self-checkout. I went to Target last night and I was wondering why the line was so long. Why were people so angry? And then when it was time to check out, I realized that there were more cashiers than I've ever seen at Target. Apparently, this is going to slowly roll out to other Targets and other stores too. I guess we say goodbye to self-checkout.
Forcing retailers to limit self-checkout lanes in an effort to curb theft and protect jobs.
When worker safety is at risk and people lose their jobs, we in the state legislature must act, and we must act now.
According to the bill, grocery and retail stores would be required to provide at least one cashier-run station. Self-checkouts would be limited to 10 items or less, and a human worker would be required to monitor no more than 2 lanes each. Stores using AI at checkout would need a full assessment before deploying that technology. Lawmakers and retailers say curbing theft is a priority, with one recent survey estimating more than 20 million Americans have stolen from a self-checkout kiosk and more than 8 million planning to do it again. 69% of consumers also say it's easier to steal from a self-checkout kiosk than a cashier. This comes as major retailers have already been rethinking how to use self-checkout in stores. Most recently, Target is limiting self-checkout to 10 items or less.
Mine goes quicker, but also I feel like it's not very convenient for some people that are buying a lot of stuff.
While other major retailers like Walmart and Costco experimenting with limiting self-checkout, and Dollar General removing self-checkout altogether from hundreds of its stores.
The current op right now is Target and their closure of self-checkout. This morning I went to Target, right? And I was like, why is the checkout line wrapping around the store? Like, what's going on? Only to walk closer and notice that the self-checkout was closed and they only had like 2 people ringing up like 50 people, moving slow as ever. And it's just like, I get that they're trying to stop like theft or whatever, but it's just like, these people don't know how to check nobody out and it's moving slow as hell. And you have like 20 registers, but then you only got 2 people on the registers and all these people to check out. It don't make no sense. We need to change it. I don't know how we're going to stop the theft, but that's not the solution.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to go out to California to once again talk about bad policy being proposed by Democrats instead of doing what they really should do in California to fix a majority of their problems, which is to get tougher on crime. Lock up criminals. But instead of locking up criminals and punishing criminals, no. What California Democrats want to do, they want to punish businesses who are responding to the California Democrat politicians refusing to be tougher on crime by closing up shop, by saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to have self-checkout anymore. We're going to lock up some of our inventory. We're going to make changes in order to try to prevent our stores from losing money due to mass theft. However, again, these stores are realizing that, hey, all these measures that we're putting in place due to the fact that the Democrats in this state don't want to be tough on crime ultimately ends up costing us too much money to operate, especially when you talk about retail and grocery, because margins are thin, okay? We're talking about 1% to 2%, okay? So having to, change your business significantly in order to prevent theft is extremely costly, and it's not sustainable. So what do Democrats do in response to these businesses leaving due to mass theft? Do they actually try to help the businesses by, locking up criminals? No. They tried to respond by over-regulating more and essentially costing the businesses more by forcing them to close self-checkouts unless they meet certain demands from the state in order to prevent mass theft. Okay, so they're basically trying to control how businesses can prevent mass theft by forcing them to hire more employees to man self-checkouts, right? So they're basically trying to regulate self-checkout, which is the absolute worst idea that I've ever heard, okay, in regards to this situation. But hey, this is what Democrats are known for, bad ideas. So without further ado, I want to react to this clip. But before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. The US dollar has lost 20% of global foreign exchange reserves, and our national debt is quickly approaching 35 trillion. No, our economy is not in great shape. Those stunning job reports that are released by the government are artificial part-time jobs. Our increasing GDP is driven by spending money that we printed. Our economy is failing and nobody is listening. Save yourself, save your family, save your future with gold. From central banks to billionaires, gold is the hedge that everybody runs to. Noble Gold can help you. From day one, you work with the same dedicated, all-American expert. Whether you're a beginner or you're an expert, Noble Gold Investments will make sure that you get all the help that you need. And this month, Noble Gold Investments will give away a free gold coin to everyone who opens up a qualified account. Just use promo code GOLD. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com. That is noblegoldinvestments.com. And just remember, there's a risk with every investment and there's no guarantee of any kind.
There is a proposed state law that would change self-checkout lanes throughout our state, throughout California. Sponsors say it'll increase worker safety and limit retail theft, but opponents contend it won't accomplish either. Here's NBC Bay Area's Ian Cole with how it could change your shopping experience.
The self-checkout lanes at grocery and retail drugstores would look a little different. Senate Bill 1446 allows those stores to continue offering self-checkout if all these conditions are met. Checkouts are limited to 10 items or less. At least one staffed checkout lane is available. Customers are prohibited from purchasing certain products that require an ID, like alcohol and tobacco, but also items behind locked cabinets. And one employee can only monitor up to 2 self-service stations.
Yeah, so I can tell you right now, again, having worked in self-checkout, right, at a grocery store when I was a teenager. In fact, I worked all over the store, okay? I worked self-checkout, I worked cashier, I worked the meat department, I worked the deli, I worked produce, I worked basically everywhere, okay? And I can tell you, having worked self-checkout, that this is going to essentially ban a whole lot of self-checkouts. And the reason why is because if you have one employee that must be monitoring 2 stations, right? So a lot of times what I see most often is that there'll be 4 stations and then there'll be one employee monitoring at least 4 stations. That is how you get your bang for your buck when it comes to self-checkout, because those machines are not only expensive, but they require a lot of maintenance as well too, okay? So you have to pay money in order to maintain the machines because they periodically break down. They need to be recalibrated. Again, there's a lot of maintenance costs. So it's not like, you know, having those machines there in those stores is essentially where you pay for the machine and then after that, there's no cost. No, there is cost associated with it. And having to station an extra employee there because the state is saying, hey, you have to station another employee there, essentially is going to make it so it's like, well, why even have self-checkout if I have to incur this extra cost of having a cashier, especially in a state like California that has a high minimum wage, right? So it's not like you can pay the cashier, the extra cashier, you know, $7.25, okay, to do it. No, you got to pay them $50, $60, $70, $80, $20 an hour, right, in California. So now you have to pay them that extra employee, which again defeats the purpose of having self-checkout in the first place. So that's essentially going to make it so a lot of these stores are going to say, well, self-checkouts are just not profitable for us due to this law. Alongside the fact that self-checkout probably wasn't profitable anyways because of retail theft. Okay, so these stores probably was already doing things like this in order to try to stop it. But again, it doesn't really work. And I can tell you why, because again, as somebody that worked self-checkout, to monitor 4 machines, it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you have to go and to sign off on people buying alcohol or age-restricted products. People, if they want to steal, they're going to find a way to steal. Okay, it doesn't matter if, you know, it's a self-checkout. Doesn't matter if it's a cashier. Now, again, self-checkout is easier to steal from. It's easier to get away with. And I guess you could argue that you know, getting rid of self-checkout will make it harder to steal, but people who are determined to steal are going to steal anyways. And I guess the type of thefts that you would prevent with, you know, these new self-checkout regulations would be thefts that occur only because the person is taking advantage of the self-checkout, right? Like throwing an extra thing, right, in the bag, an extra tomato or whatever, or trying to manipulate how the machine's weight system works and stuff like that. There's all types of ways to get over self-checkouts. But regardless of that, right, if you have to have these extra regulations where you have to hire an extra employee, even if you save money with less thefts from self-checkout, again, the cost of hiring that extra employee is going to outweigh whatever type of cost savings you have from the reduced thefts. That's just reality. If that extra employee can actually significantly reduce the amount of thefts. So again, this is just a classic example of the state overreaching. This is not a problem for the government in the sense that the government needs to regulate businesses. The government actually needs to stick to the job of the government and to regulate the crime, right? To actually punish people who do steal, who do get caught, because a lot of them, they're not even going through self-checkout, right? It's so blatant, so obvious. They're just walking out of the store. You guys remember the video of Gavin Newsom, him talking about how this person just blatantly just walked out of Target without checking out at all. Right? I mean, it's in your face. They're not going through self-checkout because they know ultimately at the end of the day, if they get caught, these soft on crime laws in California are not really going to punish them.
He says a shoplifter took off without paying.
And I was like, why am I spending $380? Everyone can walk the hell right out.
Newsom sharing the storytelling sidebar during a Proposition 1 virtual press conference, including mayors from across the state.
But then I said, well, why didn't you stop him? She goes, oh, the governor. I swear to God, true story. Oh, my mom's great. The governor lowered the threshold. There's no accountability. I said that's just not true.
The threshold in question, $950, passed by Proposition 47 voters in 2014, raising the felony charge for retail thefts up from $400.
We're sick of this stuff and tell thieves that, knock it off, especially here.
Yeah, so again, this is not a problem of, well, the government needs to step in and tell businesses how to run their self-checkouts. That's not what this is. The government needs to step up and to lock up criminals. Businesses are already dealing with the problem, okay? And they're dealing with the problem in the way that businesses deal with the problem. They're closing down self-checkouts. They are raising prices, which, by the way, this is what this is going to lead to, right? Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, again, you got to think about it from the business's perspective. They're not going to want to hire more employees because, again, hiring another employee in California is expensive. Okay. You got to pay them at least $15, $20 an hour. Right. So again, they're going to make people wait in lines. There's a lot of videos that have went viral on TikTok of Walmart's, Costco's, Targets that have closed down self-checkouts. And guess what? They're not hiring more people to work the regular checkouts. No, they're just making people wait. They're like, look, you're just going to have to wait at the end of the day. Again, especially in these so-called low-income neighborhoods, right, where they don't have too many options. Can't no other business operate there except the corporate giant because, again, the margins are too low and it's overly regulated and it's too costly and expensive. So they got, the market power in certain areas to say, well, you just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to wait. We're not going to hire anybody else. Either that or they're going to raise prices, which, again, in a place like California, you think prices are high now? The stores that can actually, adhere to these regulations, they're going to raise costs to compensate. That's what they're going to do. Again, the grocery business is a low margin business. You don't have room for this type of government regulation and think that businesses are going to be able to survive. We're talking about a 1% to 2% margin. Okay. We're not talking about fat 30, 40% margins. No, that's not what we're talking about. That's why this legislation is devastating. It really is. And this is just another example how Democrats overreach instead of actually doing their damn jobs and handling what the government is supposed to handle, which is to lock up criminals. They're punishing businesses and regular normal people instead.
2 self-service stations. Supporters say it will reduce retail theft and make working conditions safer.
This act will protect workers and the public by ensuring safe staffing levels at grocery and drug stores and regulating self-checkout machines in a way that's being smart on crime.
Letizia Costa manages multiple self-checkouts at a Lucky's in Pinole.
I have also observed customers who just walk through the self-checkout area when there's no workers and they walk out with their items.
Costa joined the state senator for a virtual press conference this morning. She says in February she saw 3 women stealing items, so she called 911. But then they turned around and attacked her.
And because of this incident, I am terrified to report any incidents of theft.
The proposed law would also require employees monitoring self-checkout to be solely focused on that task and not be asked to do anything else. The California Retailers Association is not on board. Its CEO says the bill doesn't do enough to protect employees and customers.
Instead, we're supporting a package of bills That really is a comprehensive approach to address the issue of retail theft. It includes going after and providing consequences to serial shoplifters. It goes after boosters who are selling stolen goods.
San Jose,
aka being tough on crime, right? Aka the government doing the damn jobs, which to lock up criminals. That's how you solve the problem. That's how you address the issue. Also, another way to address the issue as well too would be to lower the minimum wage, to make it less costly for these businesses to hire folks. If you want them to hire more people to actually check people out, right? Instead of relying so much on self-checkouts, lower the cost of labor, right? Teenagers should be doing these jobs. But see, again, this is why, again, states like California need to be an example of what happens when you vote Democrat and progressive forever, right? For as long as they voted in that direction. This is what ends up happening. Your state turns into a place where criminals are running everything, businesses are running away, and the normal everyday people, you suffer because of it. It's shameful, it really is.
The shoppers we talked to like the idea of tweaking self-check aisles.
It's good because it's going to protect Target and the employees and also the people.
I myself think it's a great idea because sometimes I just want to go in and out. And when people have more than 10 items, it just makes it that much longer.
SB 1446 is now in the Appropriations Committee in Sacramento before it can head to the Senate floor. Ian Cole, NBC Bay Area News.
Yeah, I hope that this bill does not pass, right? I hope that bill does not pass. But then again, it's not my state, so I really don't give a damn. I just personally think that it's just not a good bill. I think that it is the government, again, trying to avoid taking accountability and responsibility for the soft on crime laws that enable this type of stuff. And they're trying to push the responsibility and the cost, more importantly. They're trying to push the cost onto businesses when, again, they should be doing it themselves, right? And again, I think what this is going to result in is that a lot of these stores are just going to get rid of self-checkout and they're just going to pack up and leave, right? They're going to say, you know what, we're just going to leave. We're going to be done. We can't operate in this state anymore because, again, it's just overly regulated. And this is just another example of that. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.